Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Insider here at Verified Investing. My name is Paul Sampson, and coming to you on a beautiful Saturday here in the month of April 2024. And we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum as we've had some really crazy movements over the last several days here. Today, I've got a jam-packed episode here for you folks. I'm going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then I got three altcoins of your choice that you've been voting on down in the comments each and every video. The ones I noted the most recently are going to be Chainlink, Solana, and Litecoin. So we're going to jump right on into it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So here for Bitcoin, honestly, this is just a major range that is still remained intact here for the Bitcoin price action since basically, I'd say this whole quarter, since about January. I know that we were down about 50K. We got this initial rally. We've been up in these regions here since, February into March, but basically for like the last 3 months here, right? So I guess not the whole first quarter of the year, but the last quarter of time as far as the last 3 months here, February, March, and April. We've spent the majority of time just kind of ranging around this region. The 2021 all-time high, that $69,000 area, has remained a major key level. And we did get a drastic move to the downside, basically back to a high time frame average of price, basically back down to the low of the range. And of course, it was accompanied by some global news events, right? So for me, I'm just looking at it technically here. We once again had to be looking for some potential longs down here at the range low, unless we were to start closing below this quarterly average, right? So this was the average of price for last quarter, similar to a moving average, a 50-day, a 200-day. This is the average of price for 90 days straight. And that price does not move. It is set in stone once that quarter closes. Generally, we come and revisit it in the following quarter, which we have done now. So for me, what I'm looking for here is honestly just another range rotation back to the upside, right? So rotating from low to high. If we look at this overall price structure basically as a volume range, right? So utilizing the fixed range volume profile tool here in TradingView, I'm pulling this as a structural range basically just up here at the high. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this range here for you so you can basically see, and this is on a daily time frame, by the way, right? So you can see here that we've basically just been ranging, right? Ranging to the high, come down, deviated a little bit, hit our average of price, held it on the daily time frame. Yesterday we had that kind of big wick type of day. We took out the lows once again. This basically, what this does is that stops out many traders or potentially even liquidates traders in the market that were highly leveraged or had a stop loss right below the low, as well as this, during that time frame when we were breaking that low. And this was, I believe, overnight or about 8 or 9 p.m. on Thursday into Friday, as we had some new news, basically breaking at the same time. And what happened is people opened up massive shorts once the price act, a breakout trader basically is going to be looking at this saying, oh, we're losing the low. We're heading lower. You come in, you enter with a ton of shorts at this point. So now you're not only stopping out anybody with a long position looking for price to move up, you're also catching people entering with a short position. And then that basically can fuel, a move to the upside to where people that were just stopped out of their position are going to re-enter once again. And then anybody that just entered short is going to get stopped out of their position. And it just fuels for a move to the upside, right? So a pretty simple outlook there. And what do we do here? We broke back into the range, daily time frame, closed back in it. Today is Saturday now. We're seeing a little bit of a move back up. We got not even really coming back up to yesterday's high quite yet. We came up to about 65,600. But overall, I do anticipate at the moment, at least, to probably run it back. We've got our point of control, which is the highest traded area in this region of volume, which comes in right here. And basically, when you break back into a range, price action tends to seek out that volume point of control. And overall, if we start to flip these regions here, I'm looking back to the 2021 previous all-time high, once again, 69K, and then potentially rotating this range in full all the way back up towards the 71 to 73,000 and potentially even back to the new all-time high at $74,000. At the moment, there's really no reason that we wouldn't, right? So just the question is if we're going to reject any of these levels, start breaking lower, then we have to kind of change our outlook here, right? So, but for me, I still am looking up at least to just rotate this range one last time here, or not even one last time, but at least an additional time here. And yeah, that's how I'd be treating this in the short term, right? And that's a potential like 8, 10, 12% move, depending on how Bitcoin kind of finishes here, which is going to in turn be great for the altcoin market short term as well, as long as we're getting a move to the upside. The altcoins took a major hit last week, basically this time, right? Saturday, right after I did my verified investing crypto insider episode on Saturday, we had an additional drawdown. So overall, altcoins saw like 50 to 70% pullbacks in a 2 or 3 day span a week ago. Absolutely incredible. Bitcoin only saw about a 10 to 12% pullback from that time frame. Overall, it's down 20% from the $74,000 high to where we bottomed at so far at 59K. But for 20% out of Bitcoin, it drew out a 50 to 70% in some of these altcoins, and that's unfortunately just the risk we are always at with some of these things. They're very volatile, right? So that just is the nature of the beast. All right, so looking at Ethereum here. Obviously identifying that we must understand how Bitcoin is potentially going to move to kind of gauge the rest of the market. And for me, if Bitcoin, I'm anticipating a move up, at least back to the 69K region, and we'll see if it gets a little bit further than that. But I would imagine that the altcoins get a little push here as well. ETH has also come into a major support level here that is very likely to catch a bounce from, right? You always see me talking on the golden pocket, which is a Fibonacci retracement, right? And what that is, a Fibonacci is, let's just map this out. If I was to take this area, right, from low to high, and I know it's obviously boxed out here, and just cut this in half, right? 50%, 25%, 75%. I'm looking at a retracement potential for this move here, the overall low to the overall high and retracing back to the downside, right? So for this one, I'm looking at, if I'm going down from here, this is my 0 line, this is 100, this would be 25%, this would be 50%, this would be 75%, and this would be 100%. We'll break that into Fibonacci levels, which are the 382. So this is a 38.2%. And this is 61 to 65%, right, of this region. Doesn't mean that that's a 65% pullback or even a 40% pullback. It's just, if you were to chop up this section of the chart, that's what it would look like in the sense of that, right? Hope that makes sense. So I've pulled the Fibonacci from this level here. Major retracement area is the 382, all right? So this is one of two things, is that when we tend to get if you're going to get continuation, from a major uptrend, and this has been a strong one, obviously, much stronger for Bitcoin, but this is a pretty good area where we tend to come down to, we front run the gold pocket and you get the continuation from here, right? That's something to look for. Honestly, we have to be aware that could very well happen, right? So Ethereum is not pulled up and made new all-time highs quite yet, and it could very well do so. However, on the flip side, for me, I'm more so viewing this as potentially just a bounce area, right? And maybe we come back up and tag some of these levels here, maybe back to the monthly open, which is about $3,600, give or take. And, depending on how Bitcoin obviously does around the highs of its range, we'll see how things kind of go. But the biggest thing I've been pointing out in this market for, I have to imagine, months at this point, I've been preparing for it for what feels like 2 years, is a harmonic pattern. Okay, that's a sequence of Fibonacci's, a little bit more in depth than just the simple one here, but I'll just kind of cover it once again, just a little brief tidbit. And I cover this quite often in detail in the Trader's Edge crypto service that we just launched at verifiedinvesting.com, as well as all my other analysis, trade alerts, things like that. So if you're interested in joining that, be sure to head over to verifiedinvesting.com. But for here, this is a bearish pattern, all right, once completed. And this is definitely active. With the reaction we've seen off the top here, this has a couple of direct targets, one of which being the 382, all right? So could very well just come down, we tag this target, and hey, that pattern played out. That would have been a take profit on a short, or an area where you look to buy back in if you sold off at the high, right? And maybe we do turn around here. However, the main target of this is the B point, as well as the gold pocket, which line up together. And then I also want to point out that just similar to Bitcoin's quarterly average that we came down to last week, that's 6, and I know we came a little further, obviously, but like you saw where we closed on the dailies, the year average of price for Ethereum is untapped at this point, right? And this is the average price from last year, likely that we revisited this year. Not a guarantee, but it's something we have to be aware of, right? And the confluence of these three, for me, has had my attention for a long time here. So it's just something that I have in the back of my mind. I'm not blindly shorting this market by any means right now. I'm actually relatively long on a lot of positions. I'm just being cautious if we do get a pretty decent rise to the upside. I'm really paying attention here for Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So if we do start to come back above this D leg, then hey, that pattern's invalidated or already played out, right? Already hit a target. So this target is one of two. So it's already been played. But yeah, for me, I am anticipating potentially a move back down to sub 2,000 for Ethereum over time, right? Maybe that happens this summer. And if that changes, I will let you know, right? So, but for now, I do think short term we get a bounce. Long term, I think that there's still some downside to be had, right? So, just something to be aware of. And you'll, like I said, you'll definitely be getting constant updates on that from me. Now let's just take a zoom in here to a little more local price action here. I am, targeting at least locally, probably a run back to local gold pocket, right? So we've actually got the 382. So once again, you can pull these Fibonacci retracement zones from, I'm looking at this to retrace back to the upside, just like we were looking for it to retrace back to the downside, right? You can pull them either way. So now of this section of price, right? I'm basically pulling from this high down to this low. And if I was to chop all this in half, right, it'd be 50%, 75%, so on, right? It comes back up. We have 38.2% of this box is filled right here. There's some confluence with a couple other regions, all right? We got the weekly open for this week. There's an untapped daily level of resistance as well. And then up to the gold pocket, which is about 3,400, and then 3,600 is a key area I'm looking for as well, which is this month's monthly open. But once again, gauging it along the way, but I do anticipate we get a little bit of a push higher here. All right, let's take a look at some other altcoins really nicely. And honestly, I got some simple analysis here for these three, right? Chainlink, when the drop from last week, we saw a drop down right to the range low. All right, so this is the range that we've been in since November of last year, right? So kind of ranging around here. We front ran the high just a bit here, but that's okay, about $24. And for now, just looking to potentially rotate this back up as well. Looking at this in a simple Fibonacci retracement as well in this region. 382 comes in at $16. Our gold pocket is at 19. So I imagine we kind of peruse into that area there. If you were looking at this as a potential pattern, there's a Adam and Eve double bottom potentially happening here. And what that is when you see this, a huge sharp decline, almost like a V-shaped recovery. And then you get this rounded cupping bottom here, right? Some may look at this as a cup and handle at some point. And then you can actually measure out measured move, right? Similar to a cup and handle, and it gives you a estimated, about that $16, which is that 382 Fibonacci, if I'm, give or take, right? So $16 for Chainlink to the 19, I think, is where we're probably going to see in the short term. And while we're living in this range overall, looking to potentially rotate it back up to $24. All right, Solana, pretty much all the altcoins are kind of showing that same little pattern, right? Where you have that, just the big drop down, a sharp recovery, and then almost like a little rounded bottom. Came into a gold pocket of support, okay, as well as the quarterly high for 2023. So this was, and pretty much that was, if I have to imagine, that was probably the yearly high for 2023, right? Because it was Q4. So you got the yearly high of last year, holding that support, local gold pocket. More than likely we run it back to like 170-ish right up here. And then if we break that level and flip, I would say that a run to the all-time highs is on deck for Solana. But right now, probably just a little range-bound activity here. And if you do start to lose that region, we do have a couple things down below us that we've left down. That's actually extremely. This would probably be if Ethereum goes sub 2K. Those would be the areas I'd be looking for on Solana, right? So that's kind of more of a doomsday scenario. Fun fact, Litecoin was actually my very first crypto that I ever entered in the space back in 2017 in January. So holds a little near and dear space to my heart. Not really like overly married to it, but I do still hold some from that time frame. But it is interesting nonetheless, right? So for Litecoin as well, huge range we've been trading in. Had a nice little break. Did not ever take the highs here, and basically with that drop from last weekend, pushed us all the way back into the range, right to the point of control yearly open area. So for me, it's back in the range. So it's just one of those things where I have to acknowledge that there's potential to rotate down to the low. Once again, I don't think we'd see these lower areas here unless probably that idea with Ethereum plays out, right, where we see sub 2K. That would not bode well for the entire market, right? But otherwise, if we break out of this range once again, start clearing these highs, I've been targeting 146 on Litecoin for the longest time. But a little area of reaccumulation for me would be, if we get the shot at this low one more time, this would be an area if I was looking to get into Litecoin. Maybe not many are. Maybe people are just holding it from back in the day. But this could be a potentially really great entry point, especially if we see a move from that region and finally come up and tag this area. That over time, wouldn't expect it overnight. All right, everybody, that is all I have for you on this lovely Saturday afternoon here from Verified Investing. My name is Paul Sampson. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. I hope we all have a great rest of your weekend, and cheers to another great week in the markets.